routine shopping trip turns into an unforgettable moment when a store manager crosses the line and makes a shocking accusation. But what he doesn't know is that the woman standing before him is about to change everything. What happens when his mistake comes back to haunt him? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Sophia Wilson strode through the gleaming glass doors of Ashton & Co., a high-end boutique nestled in the heart of the city's luxury shopping district. She had been here before, though not often. Not because she couldn't afford it, she could buy the entire store if she wanted, but because she preferred to keep a low profile. Shopping had always been something she enjoyed, a rare moment of peace in her otherwise demanding life. Today she was in the mood to treat herself. Work had been grueling, and after months of late nights and back-to-back meetings, she deserved it. She adjusted the cashmere blazer draped over her arm, letting her fingers brush against the smooth fabric as she browsed through the elegant displays of handbags and designer coats. A sales associate, a young woman with sleek blonde hair, flashed her a hesitant smile but made no move to greet her. Interesting. Sophia knew the routine. She had seen it before. The cautious glances, the hesitant body language, the unspoken question in their eyes. Does she belong here? She sighed. It didn't matter how wealthy or successful she was. Some people always saw one thing first. Fine, she didn't come here for validation. She came to shop. She reached for a sleek, structured handbag. Italian leather, smooth to the touch, crafted with precision. Before she could lift it from the display, a sharp voice sliced through the air. "Can I help you with something?" Sophia turned. A man in a tailored navy suit stood a few feet away, arms crossed, his expression tight. The store manager, judging by his polished name tag, Richard Green. She gave him a polite smile. "I was just looking." His eyes flickered to the bag she had almost picked up, then back to her. He studied her for a moment, lips pursing slightly. Something shifted in his expression, something colder. "Right," he said slowly. "It's just that some of these items are quite expensive." Sophia's fingers curled slightly. She had heard that tone before. It was the same tone bank tellers used when they assumed she didn't belong in the VIP section, the same tone security guards used when they followed her through luxury stores, convinced she was up to no good. She exhaled. "Not today." "I'm aware," she replied smoothly. "I wouldn't be here otherwise." Green's jaw tightened, but he wasn't finished. She could see it in his eyes, the gears turning, trying to place her. "If you're not planning to buy anything, I'd appreciate it if you didn't touch the merchandise." A few shoppers turned their heads. Whispers flitted through the air. Sophia stilled. Slowly, she turned her gaze to Green, meeting his eyes head-on. "Excuse me?" "We've had issues before," he said, his voice dropping slightly. "People coming in, pretending to shop, and then, well, you understand." Her chest tightened. Oh, she understood perfectly. For a moment she considered walking away. She was tired of these encounters, tired of proving herself. But something inside her refused to let this moment slide. "Are you accusing me of something?" A flicker of discomfort crossed Green's face, but he masked it quickly. "Not at all," he said. "It's just store policy to ensure that our merchandise is handled properly. It's standard procedure." Sophia let out a soft laugh. "Standard procedure?" she echoed. "Funny I didn't see you giving that speech to the woman over there." She gestured subtly toward a well-dressed white woman who was running her hands along a row of silk scarves, completely undisturbed. Green's face darkened. "Ma'am, if you're not here to make a purchase, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." A sharp silence spread through the boutique. One of the sales associates looked away, pretending to fix a display. A customer standing near the dressing rooms watched, eyes wide with interest. Sophia held his gaze. She could have flashed her black titanium credit card, let him choke on his assumptions. She could have dropped her name, watched his face crumble in recognition. But she didn't. She took a slow step closer, her voice calm but undeniably firm. "And if I don't?" Green's nostrils flared slightly. He lifted his chin. "Then I'll have to call security." A slow smirk curved at the edges of Sophia's lips. "Go ahead." The words hung in the air, a challenge he wasn't expecting. For a brief second, hesitation flickered across Green's face. He had expected her to back down, to slink away quietly. Instead, she stood firm, her posture unwavering, her expression unreadable. But he wouldn't let himself lose. He pulled a radio from his belt, pressing the button. "I need security at the front of the store, now." The humiliation should have burned, but it didn't. Not this time. This time, she was ready. As Green stepped back, smug satisfaction flickering in his eyes, the boutique's large glass doors swung open. A group of people entered, 2 men in sleek suits, a woman in heels, and a photographer snapping rapid pictures. And right in the center, a massive display near the checkout counter came into view. A glossy business magazine cover, a familiar face staring back at them. Her face. The silence that followed was deafening. The shift in the room was instant. One moment, Richard Green stood there, confident, smug in his assumption, waiting for security to arrive and remove the woman he had deemed unworthy of shopping in his store. The next, his entire body stiffened, his expression faltering as his eyes landed on the magazine cover. His lips parted slightly. No, that couldn't be right. But it was. The large display, positioned perfectly at the entrance, featured the newest issue of Business Elite. And staring back at them from the glossy pages was Sophia Wilson's face. The same woman he had just tried to throw out of his store. Sophia didn't move. She didn't have to. The energy in the room shifted entirely as customers began whispering, their eyes darting between her and the magazine. A few of them pulled out their phones, snapping pictures, murmuring excitedly to one another. "Wait, is that really her? She's the CEO of Wilson Dynamics. Oh my God, she's worth millions, no, billions." The sound of the camera flashes clicking rapidly only made it worse. The photographer who had entered moments ago was already capturing the scene, his camera lens zooming in on Green's visibly pale face. Sophia took a slow step forward, her heels clicking against the pristine marble floor. "Something wrong, Mr. Green?" she asked, her voice smooth, effortless, carrying the kind of calm authority that came naturally when you were the most powerful person in the room. Green's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The 2 men in sleek black suits standing near the entrance were her security detail, and the woman in heels was her publicist, Natalie Foster, a meticulously polished professional with a no-nonsense attitude. Natalie smirked. "Sophia, I told you we should have had them send a private stylist instead," she said, flipping through her phone. "This was obviously a waste of time." Green snapped out of his daze, swallowing hard as he turned his eyes back to Sophia. I am Wilson. Sophia lifted a hand. "Don't," she said simply. The man flinched like she had physically slapped him. His arrogance? Gone. His authority? Completely shattered. The realization of who she was had sent his entire world tilting on its axis, and now he had nowhere to go but down. Security arrived at that moment, 2 large men in black uniforms, their expressions unreadable as they took in the scene. One of them looked at Green expectantly. "You called us for something?" The manager's throat bobbed as he struggled to find an answer. His own security team was waiting for orders, yet he looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Sophia let the silence linger for just a few beats longer. Then, slowly, she turned to the 2 guards and spoke, her voice as sharp as a blade. "Yes," she said, "you can escort Mr. Green out. I don't think he belongs here." The entire boutique fell silent. For a split second, nobody moved. Then, the weight of her words hit. "Wait. What?" Green stammered, blinking rapidly, as if he had misheard her. His face, already drained of color, somehow paled further. "You heard me," Sophia said, her eyes locking onto his, unwavering. "You've made it clear that certain people don't belong in this store. Well, now I'm making it clear you don't belong here." One of the security guards shifted uncomfortably, glancing at his partner. "Ma'am, are you saying you want him removed?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. Natalie sighed dramatically. "Honestly, it's not like he's doing much for the store's reputation anyway," she muttered, scrolling through her phone. "The way he treats customers, I'd say this place is due for a change in leadership." Sophia turned to Green, who still stood frozen, his lips trembling, eyes wide with sheer disbelief. "But I'm the store manager," he said weakly, voice barely above a whisper. "Not anymore," she replied without missing a beat. She turned to one of the sales associates, the young blonde woman who had hesitated to greet her earlier. "Who owns this location?" The woman stared at her, hesitating before whispering, "The Ashton Group. They oversee all the high-end boutiques in the city." Sophia gave a slow nod. "Good," she said, "because the CEO of the Ashton Group is a very good friend of mine." The entire boutique held its breath. Green staggered back slightly, his breathing uneven. He knew what that meant. One call, one single call from Sophia Wilson, and his career in luxury retail would be over. The guards took a step forward. "Sir, you're going to have to come with us." Green shook his head rapidly, his hands raised slightly as if that could somehow stop the inevitable. "Wait, please. I didn't know. I swear. I didn't know who you were." Sophia arched a brow. "And if I wasn't on that cover?" she asked. Green froze. "If my face wasn't plastered on that magazine, would I still be standing here? Or would I have been dragged out, humiliated, accused of something I never did?" He didn't answer, because he knew the answer. They all did. And that silence, that unbearable, deafening silence, was the loudest answer of all. She took a step back, tilting her head slightly as she watched him. "Get out," she said. Security didn't wait for another word. Green barely had time to process what was happening before the two guards grabbed his arms firmly and started guiding him toward the exit. He sputtered, his protests falling on deaf ears as he was dragged through the boutique, past customers who now openly whispered, recorded, and snapped photos. Just before he was shoved through the glass doors, his panicked gaze flickered back to Sophia one last time, as if hoping she'd change her mind. She didn't. The doors slammed shut behind him. For a long moment, the boutique was dead silent. Then, suddenly, applause erupted. Sophia blinked, caught slightly off guard as a wave of approval swept through the store. Customers and employees alike clapped, some excitedly, some hesitantly, some just grateful to have witnessed history in the making. A few even stepped forward, wanting to shake her hand, thank her for standing her ground. Natalie smirked, tucking her phone into her handbag. "Well," she said, "I think it's safe to say that went better than expected." Sophia let out a breath, then turned back to the handbag she had been admiring before all of this had started. She picked it up calmly, running her fingers over the leather before flashing the blonde sales associate a small smile. "I'll take this one." Sophia placed the handbag on the counter, her fingers grazing the smooth leather one last time before nodding toward the blonde sales associate. The young woman, still slightly shaken by everything that had just transpired, straightened her posture and quickly processed the purchase. She moved with precision, not wanting to make a mistake, her fingers trembling slightly as she reached for a crisp shopping bag. "Would you like a receipt emailed or printed, ma'am?" the associate asked, her voice laced with a newfound respect. "Both," Sophia replied, her voice steady, composed. She wasn't shaken, not anymore. The girl nodded, quickly tapping away at the register before handing her the neatly packaged bag. "Thank you for shopping with us," she said, her words careful, deliberate. Sophia took the bag, but didn't move immediately. She let the moment breathe, let the silence settle between them, watching as the young woman glanced away, almost ashamed. You work hard here, don't you? Sophia asked, her voice softer now, less sharp than when she had addressed the former manager. The woman swallowed, then nodded. Yes, I'd been here for 2 years. Sophia hummed, letting her gaze flick around the boutique. The space, once suffocating under tension, now felt different, lighter, freer. You ever want to be a manager one day? The associate blinked, eyes snapping back to her. She hesitated. I mean, yes, eventually. Sophia smiled faintly. Good. The girl stood there, clearly unsure what to say next, her eyes darting between Sophia's calm expression and the polished surface of the counter. The weight of everything that had happened still lingered, hanging over them like a final thread waiting to be cut. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, she finally blurted out. Sophia arched a brow, waiting. The girl swallowed. For earlier, I should have greeted you properly. I should have stepped in when I saw. She cut herself off, eyes flicking toward the entrance, where Richard Green had been dragged out not long ago. I should have done something. Sophia studied her for a long moment. You were scared, she said simply. The woman hesitated, then gave a small nod. And you've probably seen this happen before, haven't you? Another nod, a slower one this time. Sophia exhaled softly, tapping her fingers against the handle of her bag. Then let this be the last time you just stand by. The young woman's breath hitched slightly. If you ever want to be a leader, Sophia continued, you have to learn when to speak up, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then. The girl's lips parted slightly, as if to respond, but she didn't. She only nodded, her expression shifting, something new burning behind her gaze. Determination, realization, maybe even a small hint of regret. Sophia left it at that. No need for further words. Some lessons spoke for themselves. She turned toward the exit, where Natalie and her security team were already waiting, their patience unwavering. Ready? Natalie asked, slipping on her designer sunglasses with an air of cool indifference. Sophia nodded once. Let's go. They stepped out onto the bustling sidewalk where the crisp afternoon air greeted them with a fresh energy, washing away the lingering weight of the boutique. Outside, people had already gathered. Whispers rippled through the small crowd, some faces alight with recognition, others with curiosity. Someone raised a phone, snapping a quick picture before murmuring something excitedly to their friend. Natalie let out a short, amused breath. Well, congratulations, you just went viral. Sophia smirked, tilting her head slightly. Took them long enough? Her publicist chuckled, already scrolling through her phone. Yeah, just as I thought. Twitter's already eating this up. CEO Sophia Wilson shuts down racist boutique manager. Oh, and look at this one. Karma comes quick at Ashton & Co. Sophia shook her head, amused but unsurprised. You sure you don't want to make a public statement? Natalie asked, still typing away on her phone. I could spin this into something big. Brand awareness, social justice advocacy, the works. Sophia let the idea sit for a moment, the hum of city life buzzing around them. People moved past, some unaware, some stopping to stare, some whispering her name in hushed awe. She had spent years, working to build herself up, to reach a level where no one could deny her place in the world. And yet, even now, there were still those who did. Even now she had to remind them. But this time, she didn't feel drained by it. This time she felt resolute. She turned to Natalie, the hint of a smile playing on her lips. I don't need to make a statement, she said. I already did. Natalie grinned. Fair point. They stepped toward the sleek black town car parked at the curb, the security team moving ahead to clear the path. The driver, already waiting, held the door open as they approached. But before Sophia climbed in, she turned her gaze back to the boutique one last time. Through the glass, she could see the young blonde sales associate watching from behind the counter, her face thoughtful, her fingers still lightly touching the register. Sophia met her eyes. A silent understanding passed between them. Then, with a small, almost imperceptible nod, Sophia stepped into the car. The door closed behind her, sealing her in the quiet sanctuary of the vehicle. As the car pulled away from the curb, she finally exhaled, sinking slightly into the plush leather seat, the weight of the moment settling in. But not in the way it used to. Not with exhaustion, not with frustration, but with something else entirely. Something that felt a lot like victory. The town car moved smoothly through the city streets, the hum of the traffic outside blending into the quiet luxury of the vehicle's interior. Sophia sat with one leg crossed over the other, her fingers idly tracing the handle of the designer bag resting beside her. The moment still lingered in her mind, not with frustration, not with anger, but with something else. Satisfaction. "You know this isn't going away anytime soon," Natalie mused from the seat beside her, her phone lighting up in rapid succession. "The media's already running with it. You're trending #1. Sophia glanced at her, unsurprised. "Let me guess. Powerful black CEO puts racist manager in his place?" Natalie grinned. "Oh, you're getting all the headlines. The day a boutique chose the wrong woman to mess with. How one woman turned a shopping trip into a lesson in justice. And my personal favorite, she came for a handbag, left with a career ruin." Sophia chuckled, shaking her head. "They do love their dramatics." "Because it's a moment," Natalie countered, adjusting her sunglasses. "People don't forget moments like these. This isn't just about a shopping trip gone wrong. It's about something bigger. It's about every time someone like you walked into a place like that and got treated like they didn't belong. You didn't just stand up for yourself, you stood up for every person who's ever been in that position." Sophia let the words settle in, the weight of them sinking deep. "Maybe," she admitted. "But I didn't do it for the headlines." Natalie smirked. "That's why it works." The car pulled to a stop in front of Wilson Dynamics, the towering skyscraper that bore her name. The driver quickly stepped out, opening the door as her security detail moved into position. She stepped onto the pavement, feeling the usual rush of power that came with entering her domain. Inside these walls, no one questioned her authority. No one second-guessed her right to be here. Here she belonged. The moment she entered the lobby, heads turned. Employees whispered, some offering nods of respect, others simply watching in quiet admiration. It was clear that news had traveled fast. "Sophia." She turned to see Lisa Monroe, her head of PR, striding toward her with a tablet in one hand and an expression that was both exasperated and impressed. "Do you have any idea how many interview requests we've gotten in the last hour?" Lisa huffed, falling into step beside her. "CNN, Forbes, the New York Times, they all want a statement." "Tell them no comment," Sophia said smoothly. Lisa sighed dramatically. "Oh, come on, just one exclusive? Maybe a sit-down with Oprah?" Sophia shot her a look. "Fine, fine," Lisa relented, rolling her eyes. "But this is a moment, Sophia. If you wanted to turn this into something bigger, I could." "I don't need to turn it into anything," Sophia interrupted, stepping into the elevator. "The moment speaks for itself." Lisa stared at her for a beat, then sighed again, shaking her head with a reluctant smile. "You know, sometimes I think you enjoy keeping me on my toes." Sophia smiled as the elevator doors slid shut. The ride up was smooth, the quiet hum of the machinery almost meditative. But her mind wasn't on the boutique anymore. It was already moving forward, calculating the next move, the bigger picture. When the doors opened to the top floor, her assistant, Carmen, was already waiting for her, a sleek folder in hand. "Good afternoon, Miss Wilson," Carmen greeted her. "I've compiled the latest reports from the Chicago expansion project, and your 3 p.m. meeting with the board has been moved to 2:30. Oh, and..." She hesitated. And, Sophia prompted, arching a brow. Carmen glanced down at the folder. And there's been a call from the Ashton Group. Sophia stilled. The boutique's parent company. Carmen continued cautiously. It was the CEO himself. He wants to schedule a meeting with you. Urgently. A slow smile spread across Sophia's lips. Tell him I'll think about it. Carmen nodded, clearly curious but too professional to pry, and led the way to Sophia's office. The space was exactly as she liked it, sleek, modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the skyline. But Sophia didn't sit down. Not yet. Instead, she walked to the window, letting her eyes sweep over the city below. She thought about the boutique, about Green's shocked expression, about the sales associate's hesitant apology, about the way the crowd had watched, waiting, absorbed. She had spent years building herself up, learning how to navigate rooms where she wasn't wanted, how to demand respect in places that tried to deny her existence. But today wasn't just about her. It was about something much bigger. She reached into the sleek shopping bag beside her and pulled out the handbag she had purchased, the one she had been accused of not being able to afford. It was beautiful, expertly crafted, a symbol of everything she had worked for. But now, in her hands, it felt like something else entirely. A reminder, a statement, a trophy. She turned back toward Carmen, setting the bag down on her desk. Find out how many black women are in upper management at Ashton & Co., she said, her voice even. Carmen blinked. Excuse me? Sophia met her eyes. Find out, she repeated. And if the answer is less than 5, tell their CEO that our urgent meeting just became a negotiation. Carmen's lips curved into a slow, knowing smile. Understood. As her assistant walked out, Sophia exhaled, her fingers pressing lightly against the desk. This was how real change happened. Not just with a clapback, not just with a viral moment, but with power, with strategy, with action. She reached for the magazine still sitting on her desk, the very one that had changed everything earlier that day. Her own face stared back at her, the bold headline stretching across the cover. Sophia Wilson, the woman who redefines power. She let a slow, satisfied smile tug at her lips. They'd wanted to doubt her. They'd wanted to dismiss her. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. And now, they never would again.